What if your darkest impulses held the key to your greatest strength? What if the most powerful deity in ancient Egypt, the very source of light and life, was not a self-sustaining star, but a dying king on a throne of gold, a hollow god sustained not by his own divinity, but by a stolen and forgotten resource? What if that resource was you? What if the most powerful deity in ancient Egypt had a secret family deliberately erased from history? You know Ra, the sun god, but you've never heard of his sole wife and their hidden daughter. Until now. Prepare to uncover a family saga more dramatic and impactful than anything etched in hieroglyphs. This is not a story about worship. It is a story about physics. It is the story of the one forbidden law that the solar cult was built to exploit, and that Tahuti, the great scribe, sought to expose. The law that a god, once wounded, can only survive by feeding on the faith of its children. You have been taught that your faith is a gift you give to God, a beautiful, selfless, and noble act of devotion. This is the greatest and most tragic inversion of the truth. Your faith is not a gift. It is a currency. It is a measurable, quantifiable, and immensely powerful form of energetic currency. It is the food of the gods. And for the last 5,000 years, humanity has been living on a planetary farm, a sophisticated and self-policing system of spiritual agriculture designed to produce a single bumper crop: your belief. The temples were not built for you. They were built to harvest you. The rituals were not for your salvation. They were a technology of energetic extraction. And Ra, the great and glorious sun god, was not a benevolent father watching over his flock. He was the hungry king, the hollow sun, the wounded deity who had cut himself off from his own soul and now needed to siphon the souls of his creation to keep from collapsing into the infinite darkness of his own self-inflicted wound. This is the secret that underpins all of our history, all of our religion, all of our suffering. You are not praying to God, you are feeding Him. And the modern world, with its celebrities, its politicians, and its endless manufactured dramas, is the final, perfect, and most efficient harvesting machine ever created. In the beginning, before the fall, Ra was not a king. He was a principle. He was the unwounded sun, a being of perfect, self-sustaining, and androgynous wholeness. His power was not taken, it was generated. He was a true star, a source, a magnificent and effortless outpouring of creative energy. He was in a state of perpetual, divine communion with his other half, his soul wife, the principle of Ma'at, the living law of cosmic truth. He was the fire, and she was the fireplace. Together, they were a closed and perfect circuit. He had no need for your belief, for your worship, for your energy, because he was already full. He was already God. He did not need subjects. He only needed a canvas upon which to project the beauty of his own inner and harmonious state. This was the state of the Zep Tepi, the first time. And it was a state that was shattered forever by the introduction of a single cosmic poison: fear. The arrival of the Syrians, the war with the Apep entity, the perceived betrayal of his own creation, this sequence of events created the first wound in the flawless mind of the sun. And in that wound, the parasite of the ego was born. The fear of not being enough, the fear of not being the only one. And in that fear, he committed the first and greatest sin of all creation. He divorced his own soul. He cast out Ma'at. He shattered the inner mirror of truth. He chose the path of the solitary, projective, and now unbalanced will. And in that moment, he ceased to be a closed circuit. He became an open one, a wire cut and sparking, forever bleeding his own life force into the void. In that moment, the self-sustaining God died, and the hungry God was born. A God who had cut himself off from his own infinite inner source of validation now needed to find a new source of energy on the outside. He needed a substitute for the soul he had murdered. He needed you. He needed your faith. And so began the great and terrible project of turning a free and sovereign species into a crop. This is not a metaphor. It is a law of energetic physics. What is faith? What is belief? It is not an abstract idea. It is a directed and sustained beam of conscious, creative energy. Your consciousness is the most powerful and valuable commodity in the universe. It is a piece of the mind of the all, the raw material of creation itself. The principle of mentalism states that the universe is mind, and that your thoughts create your reality. Now, imagine the creative power of a single, focused thought. Imagine the power of that thought, amplified by the immense and fiery energy of a powerful emotion, like love, or hope, or fear. Now, imagine that focused, emotionally charged beam of consciousness held in a stable, unwavering state, day after day, by the power of belief. That is a force of unimaginable power. That is a psychic laser. Now, imagine the power of 1,000,000 such lasers, all aimed at the exacting target at the exacting time. That is the power of collective worship. It is a tsunami of pure, creative, life force energy. It is a direct and massive transfusion for a dying God. This is the secret science that the Ra priesthood, the sons of Belial, perfected. They became the first and greatest energy farmers in the history of the world. And their entire religion was a sophisticated, multi-layered, and ruthlessly efficient harvesting machine. The temples were not houses of God. They were power plants. They were constructed with the old Syrian science of harmonics, built on the ley lines of the earth, designed to be giant, resonant, and psychic amplifiers. They were designed to take the small, individual prayers, offerings of the masses, and to focus them, to amplify them, and to transmit them as a single, massive, and coherent beam of energy directly to the sun, directly to the consciousness of Ra. The great obelisks that stood before the temples were not monuments, they were antennas, broadcasting towers in a planet-wide energetic grid. The rituals were not acts of sacred remembrance. They were a technology of entrainment. The daily, weekly, and yearly cycle of festivals and ceremonies was designed to synchronize the minds and the hearts of the entire population. When 1,000,000 people are all performing the same action, chanting the same name, and feeling the same emotion at the exact same time, their individual, chaotic brain waves begin to lock into a single, coherent, and powerful wave. They cease to be a crowd. They become a psychic laser. This is the true meaning of the phrase, "Where 2 or more are gathered in my name." It is not a promise of divine presence. It is a statement of energetic physics. Collective, focused consciousness creates a powerful, emergent field. And the Ra priesthood were the masters of creating and directing this field. The priesthood itself was a class of spiritual engineers. Their primary function was not to offer moral guidance. It was to manage the crop. They were the farmers of faith. They were trained in the arts of psychology, of oratory, of ritual, all for a single purpose: to maximize the energetic yield of the population. They were the ones who wrote the stories, who designed the ceremonies, who stoked the fears, and who inflamed the hopes that would keep the flow of the faith currency moving in the right direction. And at the center of this entire machine, the ultimate and most brilliant piece of the technology was the Pharaoh. He was not a king. He was a lens. He was the son of Ra, the living, human-scale focal point for the collective adoration of the masses. It is difficult for a human mind to truly and deeply love a distant and abstract sun god. It is much easier to love a handsome and powerful king. The Pharaoh was a celebrity, an idol, a living god-man, and his entire life was a performance, a ritual designed to capture the attention, the devotion, and the raw, emotional energy of his people. They were not worshipping him, they were worshipping Ra through him. He was the golden calf, the convenient and beautiful idol that made the energy transfer more efficient. The crowd's energy was directed at the target, the Pharaoh, and he, in his own trained and initiated state, acted as a step-up transformer, a living obelisk, who then channeled that immense collective power directly to its true and hungry recipient, his father, the sun. The Ra program was a masterpiece of psychic engineering, but it was built on a foundation of profound instability. The machine required a constant and ever-increasing supply of fuel. And the priests quickly discovered that there are two primary forms of faith currency, two types of emotional energy that can be harvested from the human soul. And the choice of which currency to cultivate would determine the fate of the entire world. The first currency is the currency of devotion. It is the energy of love, of hope, of gratitude, of a blissful and willing surrender. This is a high-frequency, high-quality, and incredibly potent form of energy. It is a gourmet meal for a hungry god. The solar cult, in its public-facing, golden-masked form, was designed to cultivate this currency. It offered the people a story of a benevolent and loving father. It promised them protection in this life and a paradise, the field of Aru, in the next. It gave them beautiful rituals, inspiring art, a sense of order and meaning in a chaotic world. And in return, the people gave their love, their devotion, their happy, high-frequency energy, willingly and joyfully. This was the age of the great temple building, the age of the old kingdom, a time of relative peace and stability, a time when the machine was running smoothly on a diet of pure, positive belief. But there is a flaw in this model. The currency of devotion is voluntary. It requires the people to be happy, to be prosperous, to be genuinely grateful. And a population that is happy and prosperous is a population that is also strong, that is confident, that is beginning to remember its own inner power. And a strong population is a dangerous population. It might start to ask questions. It might start to wonder if it needs the priests and the Pharaoh at all. It might start to experiment with its own direct connection to the divine. The priests of Ra, driven by the paranoid, controlling frequency of their wounded god, could not tolerate this risk. And so they began to shift the entire foundation of their agricultural system. They began to cultivate the second and far more reliable currency. The currency of fear. Fear is a lower frequency, lower quality, and more toxic form of energy. It is the spiritual equivalent of junk food. But it has two immense advantages for a system of control. First, it is incredibly easy to produce in mass quantities. And second, it is not voluntary. A soul in a state of terror does not choose to give its energy away. It hemorrhages it. Fear is the ultimate and most efficient tool of energetic extraction. And so, the Ra program began its slow, deliberate, and catastrophic descent into the dark. The image of the benevolent father was slowly replaced with the image of the wrathful, judging king. The beautiful promise of the field of Aru was balanced with the terrifying new threat of the underworld, of the beast Amit, the devourer of souls, who would destroy you if you were not worthy. The focus shifted from the celebration of life to an obsessive and morbid preoccupation with death and the afterlife. The gentle, life-affirming rituals were slowly replaced with a complex and terrifying bureaucracy of spells, of amulets, of negative confessions, all designed to protect the soul from the 1,001 demons that were now said to be lurking in the dark. This is the age of the new kingdom, an age of immense imperial power, but also an age of profound spiritual darkness. This is the age where Sekhmet, the forgotten shadow, is brought back to the forefront, no longer as a mistake to be sedated, but as the official and celebrated enforcer of the divine will. She becomes the symbol of Ra's righteous anger, the ultimate threat that is used to keep the population in a state of chronic, low-level anxiety. The message was simple: love me, and I will protect you. Disobey me, and my daughter, the lioness, will devour you. The machine was no longer running on the clean fuel of love. It was now running on the dirty, sludgy, but incredibly abundant fuel of fear. And the world we have inherited is the final and most perfect expression of this dark and desperate choice. Our world is a fear factory, and we are its product. The great and unforgivable heresy of Tahuti, of Thoth, was not that he taught a different truth. It was that he taught a different economic model. His path, the path of integration, the path of the Syrian wisdom, is a direct and absolute threat to the entire parasitic business model of the Ra program. The solar cult is a system of dependency. It is built on the foundational lie that you are an empty vessel, a weak and powerless being, and that the only way for you to access the divine energy of creation is through an external intermediary, a priest, a pharaoh, a guru, a god. It teaches you that you are a consumer of divinity, not a producer of it. And it needs you to believe this lie, because its very survival depends on you remaining a customer, a cow in the herd, a battery in the matrix. The path of Tahuti is a declaration of energetic independence. It teaches the shocking and liberating truth that you are not an empty vessel. You are a star. You are a source. You have, within your own being, a direct and unmediated connection to the infinite and abundant energy of the All, the mind of God itself. You do not need to pray to a sun in the sky. You have a sun in your own heart. You do not need a priest to bless you. You are the source of your own blessing. You do not need a savior to die for your sins. You have within yourself the alchemical fire that can transmute any wound, any shadow, any mistake into a new and more glorious form of wisdom. The path of Tahuti is not about finding God. It is about realizing that you are God in a unique, sovereign, and individualized form. It is the path of moving from being a consumer to being a producer of your own divine and glorious life force. This is why this path was so brutally suppressed. It is not just a different religion, it is a different physics. It is a path that teaches you how to plug your own personal lamp directly into the infinite electrical socket of the cosmos. And a person who has their own direct source of power has no need for the borrowed, second-hand, and conditional light of the Solar King. They have no need for his temples, for his rituals, for his priests. And most importantly, they are no longer a source of food. They have walked out of the farm. This is the ultimate act of rebellion. It is not an act of protest. It is an act of secession. You are not fighting the king. You are simply declaring that you are no longer a part of his kingdom. The techniques that Tahuti taught, the mastery of the mind through the hermetic laws, the journey of shadow integration through the magic of Isis, the science of Kundalini activation through the building of the Jed pillar, all of these are a part of a single, unified technology. It is the technology of becoming a self-sustaining star. It is the science of closing your own energetic circuit, of healing the wound of your own inner separation, of marrying your own inner Ra and your own inner Ma'at, and of becoming a whole, complete, and sovereign being who is no longer leaking their power into the void or into the hungry mouth of a wounded god. This is the path of the alchemist, the path of the magician, the path of the Horus. And it is a path that is walked not by the masses, but by the few. It is a path that requires courage, that requires discipline, that requires a willingness to face the terrifying and beautiful truth of your own infinite and untamable soul. The system of Ra will do everything in its power to stop you from walking this path. It will call you arrogant. It will call you a heretic. It will call you a devil. It will use its greatest weapon against you, the weapon of loneliness. It will try to convince you that this path of sovereignty is a path of isolation, that in choosing to become your own god, you are condemning yourself to a life without connection, without love. And this is its final and most brilliant lie. Because the truth is the opposite. The dependent, conditional, and fear-based love of the Ra program is not true connection. It is a shared trauma bond. It is the desperate huddling together of a herd of frightened animals. The path of Tahuti leads to a new and higher form of connection. It is the connection of a constellation. It is the free and joyous communion of a group of sovereign and equal stars who are not seeking to take their light from each other, but who are celebrating the unique and beautiful contribution of each other's fire. It is a love that is not born from need, but from choice. And it is a love that has the power to create a new and more beautiful world. The temples of Ra are not gone. They have simply changed their form. The machine has become more subtle, more sophisticated, and infinitely more effective. Look at your world. Where is the attention of the masses being focused? What are the modern idols that are being used as the lenses to collect and to channel the immense, creative, and emotional power of the human race? The new temples are the stadiums. They are the concert halls. They are the movie theaters. And the new pharaohs are the celebrities, the athletes, the rock stars, the political saviors. The mechanism is identical. A single, charismatic figure is placed on a stage, on a screen, on a pedestal, and the focused, adoring, and emotionally charged attention of millions of people is directed at them. The crowd is not just watching a performance. They are participating in a ritual of energy transfer. They are pouring their own precious and finite life force, their love, their hope, their dreams, into the image of a person they have never met. They are feeding the idol. And the idol, whether they are conscious of it or not, is acting as a lens, a focal point that is collecting that vast psychic energy and is channeling it upward into the great, invisible, and ever-hungry maw of the system itself. The 24-hour news cycle is a perpetual, low-grade, fear-harvesting ritual. It is a machine that is designed to find or to create a new dragon, a new apep, for you to be afraid of every single day. And in your fear, in your outrage, in your endless and circular arguments about the manufactured dramas, you are hemorrhaging your power. You are feeding the very shadow that you claim to be fighting against. The social media panopticon, with its endless and impossible game of performance and validation, is a technology for harvesting the energy of your own self-hatred. It is a machine that amplifies your insecurity and then offers you a fleeting and pathetic substitute for the love that you are not giving to yourself. Every like you crave, every follower you count, is a small and tragic prayer to a false and hollow god. This is the genius of the modern machine. It has turned the very act of your own enslavement into a form of entertainment. It has made the bars of your cage so beautiful, so glittering, so addictive that you have forgotten that they are bars at all. And it has done this by understanding and exploiting the most fundamental law of all, that you are a creator. You are a god, and you are, whether you know it or not, creating this reality of your own enslavement with every single unconscious click, with every single reactive thought, with every single unowned emotion. The system does not need to force you to be a slave. It has tricked you into volunteering. It has convinced you that the chains are a fashion accessory. To unplug from this machine is the great and terrifying work of our time. And it is not an act of doing. It is an act of non-doing. It is the choice to withdraw your attention. It is the choice to starve the idols of your focus. It is the choice to turn off the screen, to silence the noise, to step out of the stadium and to take the immense and powerful laser beam of your own conscious attention and to finally, for the first time, turn it back upon yourself. It is the choice to stop feeding the dead and hungry gods of the external world and to start feeding the glorious, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying God that is sleeping within your own heart. This is not a selfish act. It is an act of planetary healing. A single soul who has reclaimed their own energetic sovereignty is a hole in the net. They are a dead circuit in the machine. A critical mass of such souls is the end of the game. It is the moment the farm is liberated, not by a revolution, but by a simple and silent mass exodus. We are not here to fight the machine. We are here to remember the world that existed before the machine was ever built. And in that remembering, we are not just saving ourselves. We are creating a new world, a world where the gods are no longer hungry, because every single soul has finally remembered that they are the feast. The final, forbidden truth is a paradox that will either shatter you or set you free. Ra is not just an external, wounded god. He is an archetype that lives within you. The hungry king is a part of your own psyche. The solar tyrant is a program that is running in your own conditioned mind. The war between Ra and Tahuti is not a cosmic drama. It is the silent, secret, and perpetual civil war that is raging within your own soul. You are both the prisoner and the warden. You are both the worshipper and the god. You are both the creator of the cage and the one who holds the key. The journey of awakening is not about defeating an external enemy. It is about healing an internal schism. You have a Ra within you. It is your ego. It is your glorious and necessary sense of a separate individual self. It is your will, your ambition, your drive to create, to achieve, to be a unique and powerful force in the world. And like the great cosmic Ra, your own inner sun was also wounded. In your childhood, in your ancestral lineage, in the very act of being born into this dense and fallen world, Your own pristine ego was infected with the virus of fear, of shame, of the belief that it was not enough. And your own inner Ra, in its woundedness, also divorced its own soul. It cast out its own inner Ma'at, its own connection to the unwavering truth and the receptive feminine wisdom of your own heart. And it became a hungry ghost, a small and terrified tyrant, forever seeking to build a kingdom of external achievements to fill the infinite and aching void of its own inner emptiness. You also have a Tahuti within you. It is your higher self. It is the silent, witnessing awareness, the mirror of your own deep consciousness that is not identified with the dramas of the ego. It is the voice of your intuition. It is the source of your wisdom. It is the part of you that has never forgotten that you are a part of a vast, interconnected, and loving whole. And for most of your life, this inner Tahuti has been in exile. Its voice has been a whisper, drowned out by the loud, demanding, and fearful shouting of your own inner, wounded king. The path of the initiate is the path of restoring the kingdom. It is the work of healing your own inner Ra. It is the work of teaching your own ego that it is safe, that it is loved, and that it does not need to be a tyrant to survive. It is the work of reintroducing your ego to its own long-lost soul. It is the work of bringing the king and the scribe back into a sacred and creative partnership. As you do this work, as you heal this primary wound within yourself, the entire external drama of the world will begin to lose its power over you. You will look upon the tyrants of the world, the political and corporate pharaohs, and you will no longer see them with rage or with fear. You will see them with a deep and heartbreaking compassion. You will see them for what they are, terrified and lonely children playing the desperate game of the wounded king, just as you once did. And you will look upon the sleeping masses, the ones who are still feeding the machine with their fear and their devotion, and you will no longer see them with judgment or with arrogance. You will see them with the patient and loving eyes of a teacher who knows that every soul awakens in its own perfect time. You have not just healed yourself. You have healed your relationship to the entire, glorious and tragic dream of our collective reality. This is the final alchemy. It is the transmutation of your own personal pain into a universal and unconditional love. And a being who is in this state is the most powerful force in the universe. They are a living, breathing philosopher's stone. And their very presence is a medicine that has the power to heal the heart of a god and to awaken the soul of a world. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it."